Good evening. From Copenhagen, Denmark, where European Union foreign ministers have gathered in an informal Gymnich meeting, the atmosphere has been tense, candid, and in many ways revealing. Behind the polished statements and diplomatic smiles, Europe's leaders wrestled with two defining crises of our time: Russia's unrelenting war against Ukraine and the deepening humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Tonight, we bring you the full account of what was said, what was left unsaid, and why these debates matter not only for Europe, but for the world. The session began with a reminder of international law. One minister pointed out that in the light of the existing agreements between the United Nations and its host state, all should urge for decisions to be reconsidered with respect to those agreements. That comment, subtle but significant, underscored a larger theme: credibility, legality, and the role of Europe in upholding both. The High Representative then set the stage with a blunt acknowledgement: we are 27 member states and we do not always agree. But, he argued, the Gymnich format, an informal closed-door gathering, creates space for candid, unscripted exchanges, and candid they were. Two major issues dominated the day: Russia's illegal war against Ukraine and the mounting humanitarian crisis in Gaza. On Ukraine, the message was urgent. Russia, several ministers warned, is deliberately buying time, prolonging the war in hopes of wearing down Ukraine's resolve and dividing its allies. One minister declared that the only language Putin understands is that of hard pressure. That pressure, the ministers agreed, must come in the form of sanctions. The European Union is now preparing its 19th sanctions package, exploring new measures that go beyond financial penalties into energy, secondary markets, and even cryptocurrency. Journalists pressed for clarity. Bloomberg's Andrea Pashana asked whether Europe was closer to sanctions targeting Russia's oil and gas, sanctions long considered the most painful step. The response was careful but revealing. Work is ongoing, officials said. Ideas are being exchanged. Options like crypto regulation are on the table, though difficult to enforce. The tone was clear. Unity is still elusive, but momentum is building. Denmark's foreign minister added, "The general atmosphere was that we should move on, and we should do it as fast as possible." Yet, if Ukraine exposed Europe's caution, Gaza laid bare its divisions. Denmark, breaking from the usual diplomatic restraint, proposed suspending the trade chapter of the EU-Israel Association Agreement. Israel's actions, one minister said flatly, go far beyond self-defense. This bold step triggered a heated exchange. Reuters' Andrew Gray asked if the union was in fact growing further apart, not closer together. The High Representative rejected the charge. If the majority is growing, then the division is shrinking. Still, the reality was stark. No binding decision was taken. For some countries, suspending trade with Israel would be a moral stand. For others, it risked further polarization and the perception of strengthening Hamas. But humanitarian urgency dominated. The United Nations has already declared famine in Gaza. Ministers called for reopening medical corridors, treating Palestinian patients abroad, and pushing Israel to allow more aid into the Strip. We must turn words into action, Denmark's foreign minister insisted. For all the debate, the need to relieve suffering was undeniable. Another major point of contention was frozen Russian assets. Across Europe, over 200 billion euros belonging to Russia remain immobilized. Belgium's foreign minister warned against, as he put it, killing the goose that lays the golden eggs by rushing to spend these funds. Others argued the assets should finance Ukraine's survival now. The High Representative clarified, under European Council decisions, these assets will remain frozen until Russia pays reparations. That is the legal baseline. Still, ministers debated how to create an exit strategy, how to use the money without violating international law, how to share risks fairly between member states. Some pushed for immediate action to cover Ukraine's massive funding gap. Others counselled caution. The issue, as one diplomat explained, is not whether Russia should pay, everyone agrees it must, but how Europe can act without undermining its own legal credibility. This brought ministers to a broader question: credibility itself. Danish journalists asked whether it was time to end the rule of consensus in EU foreign policy. The High Representative admitted frustration. The people of Europe are losing trust if we cannot deliver. Denmark's minister put it even more sharply. Right now, it is the slowest ship in the convoy that defines the speed. Without reform, one member state can paralyze all of Europe. Without change, Europe risks irrelevance. On Israel, ministers confronted what they called false narratives. Critics argued that sanctions or trade suspensions would strengthen Hamas. One minister pushed back quite the opposite. If we fail to act, extremists on both sides gain ground. Still, resistance remains strong in capitals like Berlin. It is frustrating that we cannot do more, the High Representative admitted, but Europe is still the largest humanitarian donor to Gaza and the Palestinian Authority. Reporters also challenged the ministers on credibility abroad. If Europe cannot act as one, how can it present itself as a serious global actor? The High Representative admitted the personal difficulty. If you ask how it feels to be the face blamed when we don't have a decision, it is hard, very hard. But the way the European Union works is that 27 must agree, not one. His words revealed both the limits of his role and the frustrations of Europe's slow machinery. In closing remarks, ministers circled back to first principles. Europe's strength lies in its ability to find common ground, even if painfully and slowly. Unity, they argued, is both the Union's greatest asset and its greatest challenge. Now, more than ever, the High Representative concluded, it is crucial to stand united and to turn words into action. And so Europe leaves Copenhagen divided but determined, cautious but compelled by urgency. On Russia, the path is clearer. More sanctions, more pressure, more transatlantic coordination. On Gaza, the path is fraught with politics, principle and peril, but also humanitarian necessity. And on frozen assets, the debate is technical, legal and unresolved, yet vital for Ukraine's future. In the end, this was not just another diplomatic meeting. It was a mirror reflecting Europe's struggle to balance law with politics, principle with pragmatism, unity with diversity. A mirror showing that in a world of division, Europe's credibility depends not only on what it says, but on what it dares to do.